I've been holding off on making this video for a long time. I get asked all the time though, how do I build a commander deck? I've literally built hundreds of them, so I've got it down to part art, part science. And unfortunately, the process isn't prescriptive. There's no template to fill out, no blanks to fill in, as much as other channels will tell you there is. Really, it comes down to feel, it comes down to desire, it comes down to what you want to build and how you want to build it. But let me walk you through my thought process and how I build commander decks. Previously on the channel, I've broken down the main ways that I view commander deck building, video linked in the description, which you should check out after this one, but it boils down to what I call build in or build out commander decks. When you build in, you know what you want to do in the deck, be it a combo, or an effect, or a theme, but don't yet have a commander selected. You compile the contents of your deck, find out what overlaps, and decide which commander is best to lead your deck. When you build out, you start with a commander. You need to fill in the deck with synergies or interactions around your commander. You are able to more swiftly and effectively fill out the 99 when you already know what your most reliable card is going to be, and you use it as the North Star for deck building direction. So today we're going to walk through one example, along with helpful tips and tools for making cuts, filling in slots, and importantly, being disciplined in building your decks. But if you want to see more examples, you've got to go hit up those comments right now and tell me. Let's start with a build-in example. Like all self-respecting Magic players, I have piles and piles of cards on my desk right now. Cards I find interesting, stuff I've pulled from packs, but all stuff with no home. A commander deck build-in is how you find a home for those cards, and how you build a deck starting with goodies in the 99. For instance, let me rifle through this pile. I've got cards from the newest set sitting on my desk, like this full art foil mutagen man from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, a Mirror Mind Crown from Lorwyn Eclipsed, and a United Front from Avatar. Maybe that's what I want to start with? Making a bunch of tokens all at once and then turning them all into copies of something else all at once? This could give me a home for the Mutable Explorer and Formidable Speaker I have right here, and the bonus sheet Parallel Lives from Spider-Man that's been collecting dust on my desk for months. Kin Binding and Caretaker's Talent would be right at home here too. Maybe some kind of token deck? Let's start to map it out. In one pile we've got cards that make tokens. In another pile we've got cards that care about creatures or tokens entering. Then, off in a lonely third pile, is Mirror Mind Crown as a cards that want to make tokens into other things pile. Let's view these three piles as a Venn diagram. We're getting nerdy here, folks, so strap in. It's time to bring out the chalkboard! These piles are three rings of effects, and we can lay them out visually and spatially to better understand relevance. This way, we can balance how many cards we have, how many cards we want, and what's best to cut later. This spot here in the middle is our commander. Ideally, it should overlap with our game plan as much as possible, so let's find out what our game plan is first, then build from the outside of the rings in to what our deck's most reliable card is going to be. Hence the name, a build-in deck. There's no shortage of cards we can put in Circle 1, make tokens, our primary game plan or synergy. Everything from Avenger of Zendikar to Secure the Wastes falls into this circle. If we number these game plans, we can prioritize better. This becomes Game Plan 1, make tokens. Circle 2 or Game Plan 2 is make tokens better or make more tokens. This is where we find our first overlaps. This area of our diagram right here are cards that do both things in make tokens and make tokens better. United Front fits in here since it makes tokens, then also puts a counter on each creature you control. Caretaker's Talent and Parallel Lives don't necessarily fit in here since they only make tokens better, they don't themselves make tokens. An argument can be made for Caretaker's Talent level 2, but it only makes one token once, so we'll leave it out of the overlap for now, but leave it close to the overlap. And here is Circle 3 or Game Plan 3 of make tokens different things. Right now we've got just Mirror Mind Crown sitting here alone, but there are similar effects to Mirror Mind Crown. However, it looks like these effects are all in blue. Moonlit Meditation, Mirror Form, or Essex Fractal Bloom could all live in this game plan. We haven't yet considered blue as a third color, so let's see what kind of overlap we can develop. You know, even something like Divine Visitation could fit in this category, since making any tokens we make 4/4 Flying Angels instead certainly fits the criteria of this game plan. So let's begin by filling out more cards in each of these synergies, each of these game plans, to unlock a better picture of what we need to do. For Game Plan 1, we are entertaining blue. We could be looking at Access Denied, Spell Swindle, Stolen by the Fae, and that's it, really? Let's do a quick Scryfall search for Create X tokens in blue and... yeah. We aren't drawing cards as a game plan for Chasm Skulker, so it's out. We aren't running Rogues right now, so Notorious Throng is out. Oh, that Treasure Vault in Colorless may work for a land. Let's add that one in. Sandstorm Salvager, though, fits in both Game Plans 1 and 2, since it makes a token, and makes your tokens better all at once. So we've clearly got something here. Let's look at Game Plan 2, make tokens better. If we're running Parallel Lives, is there any reason we shouldn't run Anointed Procession, Doubling Season, or Mondrak? Is that really the kind of deck we want to make? It's been done before, but let's put them in, but on the outside of the rim of the circle. They do the thing, but are they synergistic? They're high floor, low ceiling cards, so if we're not feeling them and need room for better synergies, we know what to cut first, those cards on the outside of these circles. Is there anything similar to Kin Binding in Bant colors? Knowledge is Power or Prof's Eidetic Memory is alright, and if we're getting some card drawing going on, then maybe that Chasm Skulker can fit in Game Plan 1 after all. Oh, Champion of Lambholt is a slam dunk for this category. It's basically giving all of our creatures unblockable with the volume of tokens we can create. Oh, and for Game Plan 3, Doppelgang fits in here, making tokens of other things. And, Academy Manufacturer could totally fit in here too. But do I want another Academy Manufacturer deck? Oltec Matter Weaver fits in the synergy between Game Plans 3 and 1, since it makes tokens on its own, but could also make tokens that are copies of other things. So now, with some good cards filled into these categories, let's start looking at commanders in Bant colors, green, white, and blue. We want someone that makes tokens, or makes tokens better, or makes token copies of other things. Let's wheel over to EDH Rec and start looking at Bant commanders. Miss Bumbleflower doesn't cover it. Titus cares more about +1/+1 counters. But Bernard, Ginger Sculptor, he makes food or golem tokens better with +2/+2 and trample. That's game plan number 2 covered. And when non-token creatures die, he makes a copy of them except their food. That's a great overlap between game plans 1 and 3. Folks, I think we found him. Let's plop Bernard in the center here and start to re-evaluate some of our early choices. Our commander doesn't draw cards, so let's move some of these blue cards that rely on drawing cards to the outside rim of these circles. Otherwise, everything looks like it fits, and we can look at more creatures that make more creatures as a way to use Bernard and our synergies. Nice thinking. Now, before I go crazy adding cards to the list, I want to make sure that I have my nuts and bolts covered too. The necessities to make a deck run, like lands, ramp, card draw, and removal. This is where we want to start deciding what falls inside our circles and what falls outside our circles. Generically good cards that don't fall in any of our strategies or synergies, like Swords to Plowshares, Farseek, or Negate, are all nuts and bolts, but they don't progress our game plan. They fall outside the circles in that they're necessary, but don't help our board state. That's not to say they aren't good, but how do we include cards that are progressing our board state and are also nuts and bolts? Take a card like Sundering Growth. It's removal for artifacts or enchantments and makes us a copy of our best token on the board. That is both utility and synergy. Those are what I prefer to prioritize in my builds. Not generically good cards that only set my opponents back, but cards that set my opponents back while also progressing my own game plan. And since we're looking at making tokens, ramp doesn't necessarily look like just rampant growth. No, ramp is Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, turning all of our tokens into mana rocks. That Mutable Explorer is a ramp spell since he enters and makes a land, but if we make more copies of a Mutable Explorer, we ramp more. Springleaf Parade is a ramp spell as well, turning all of our tokens into mana dorks while also making us X tokens on enters. These are the cards we want to prioritize. It's when you exhaust these options that we can start looking at generically good options for your nuts and bolts. We could go as far as to include Farhaven Elf and other creatures that grab us a land on enters and consider that ramp, since we could be making more copies of them to ramp harder later. That's synergy. If there's no other removal that makes us tokens, let's look at removal that makes opponents tokens, since we could be tricky and use that on ourselves to make a token of something if we really needed to. This is where Beast Within, Generous Gift, and Stroke of Midnight all do us wonders. Swan Song and an Offer You Can't Refuse too, because if we end up in a situation where we want to make a token at instant speed in order to trigger some of our synergies, we could use this on ourselves. Versatility and synergy always beat out raw utility when I'm building a deck. For board wipes, I always prefer board wipes that we can make sculptable. Ones that we can cast to leave our board relatively untouched while your opponents get wiped out. Why cast a Wrath of God when we could instead be casting a Perplexing Test, bouncing everything but our token army to leave us able to attack into empty boards? Or Hour of Reckoning, allowing us to blow up everything but the multitude of tokens we've created. Sure, we might not be paying only 4 mana for these effects, but we're ensuring we aren't letting our opponents have the first chance to rebuild their boards after a board wipe, and that is worth a few extra mana. For card draw, we could be including boring card draw spells like Thirst for Identity, or we could be playing an Idol of Oblivion that draws us a card after making a token, something that we will be doing a lot of. One-time card draw is fine, but ongoing card draw will get us more long-term value. Since we're going wide with creatures, we could be including card draw on Coastal Piracy, Bident of Thassa, or the Indomitable, but none of those are on creatures we could be making copies of. A Keeper of Fables, though, well, if we make 2 to 3 copies of one, these could be drawing us 3 to 4 cards whenever a single creature connects with an opponent. Orin Frostfang or Owlbear Shepherd would be fine ongoing card draw engines too, prioritizing the synergy overlap of make tokens and make token copies of other things for best long-term value. Shamanic Revelation is a great one-time card draw effect after we've gone wide to ensure that we could also potentially gain some life too. Once we've hit 5 mana, we should have several creatures, and the later in the game we draw it, the more likely it is that we have even more creatures. And the last bit of our nuts and bolts that most folks forget are the gotcha spells. These are spells that blank opponents' removal or board wipes and protect your stuff. For us, this is a Rootborn Defense or Clever Concealment or Flawless Maneuver. This area of nuts and bolts are often overlooked and what often leads to blowouts in games of Commander where you don't have enough card draw, have overcommitted to the board, and can't rebuild. For this deck, when we're going wide with creatures, including gotcha spells is a necessity. Now that I've noted down some cards and made some piles, maybe pulled a few of these from my boxes and binders, it's time to pull up a deck builder of choice. I prefer Moxfield. Yes, I am sponsored, but even if I wasn't, they are the best deck building site in the world. And here I start up a new deck. Before I add any of these cards, apart from Bernard, I plug in 40 lands as placeholders. Every time, without fail, 40 lands to start with. This way, I can be disciplined and ensure I'm not cutting lands to the deck's detriment. I look for a cool 59 cards to fill in the rest of the deck now. As I start adding cards, I start looking for effects similar to effects I have added in. Adrix and Nev fit if I'm including token doublers, for instance. Aggressive Biomancy fits here too, making tokens of a creature I control. For the Common Good does the same thing, while being a kind of gotcha spell as well, giving your token stuff indestructible until your next turn. But now I've only got about 10 spots left, so let's look at what I'm missing. Here's where I start the analysis of deck building. Let's look at Wincons, mana curve, and starting hands. First, for Wincons, we're really on the combat train on going wide, but I despise leaving combat as the only way to win in a deck. I like to put some kind of non-combat, win the game on the spot option in the deck. This could be through non-combat damage like burn spells, it could be through milling, or it could be through alternate Wincons. And I have one in mind for this list, Biovisionary. This alternate Wincon is one I've used before and makes for a great oops, I win option in a list like this. Simply, we win at the end of our own turns if we control 4 or more creatures named Biovisionary. For this list, easy mode. The best part is, unlike a lot of alternate Wincons, we don't have to wait for the upkeep for this to trigger, we can win at sorcery speed. Doppelgang it, throw a Mirror Mind Crown on it, whatever. This is a perfectly fine Plan A win condition for this deck, with Plan B being smash with lots of tokens. Now, the deck has objectives. And now's where we start to look at mana curve based on what we want to do and what's in our deck. And I can see right away, we're pretty heavy on the 5 mana value spells. A lot of our ramp is at 3 mana value currently, which means we could skip 4 mana value and head right to 5, so would I consider this a problem? If we were more reliant on Bernard, we aren't, he's nice to have but doesn't succeed or fail without him, I'd be more concerned about what 4 mana value spot looks like, but our curve looks pretty okay right now. So the question is playability. Let's run through some hands using the starting hand simulator tool to see if we have more keepable hands than not. Keeping in mind we have placeholder lands in the deck, so let's ignore color generation for right now and just see if volume of lands is sufficient in that aspect. And out of my first 5 hands, I have 2 hands I can't keep. One where I only have a single land and the other where I have nothing to do until turn 7. But even for the keepable hands I see, I don't have anything to do before turn 3. So that tells me I need to be looking at the bottom end of my curve. Let's look for more utility creatures with Enter's effects or token generating effects that fall under 3 mana to pad out both my creature count and my mana curve a bit. Gilded Goose could work here. It enters and makes a token while also being an early game mana dork. We could also sacrifice a Bernard-made food token later in the game to create a mana, so that's a win. Could Biomechan Engineer work here too? It enters and creates a lander token and is a mana sink later in the game. That could give us utility early game and late game for sure. Also, Coiling Oracle is a classic of these style of decks, ramping you or drawing you a card on enters. It's fine to make a lot of copies of if you're desperate, and hitting a land on turn 2 is actually pretty sweet for us in this brew. Charismatic Conqueror is a great way to make tokens on other players' turns, since a few of our effects say once per turn on them. I like this guy a lot and haven't found a home for him yet, so let's slot him in. Oh, and Prosperous Innkeeper is another great creature that ramps on enters, albeit temporarily with a treasure token. Still, making us lots of copies of him later in the game also ramps us significantly and can gain us a lot of life too. Now looking back at the curve, we're a lot healthier, with almost as many 2-drops as 3-drops in the deck, all leveraged to get us to 5 mana and beyond. Very good, and all synergistic as well. That leaves us with 22 creatures in the deck and 3 spots left. We're very heavy on instants, which isn't a bad thing, and very light on artifacts. Let's run a few more test hands. And somehow these test hands are feeling even worse rather than better. I'm getting the lands I need, but I'm stuck with these 5 mana spells in hand like Access Denied or Divine Visitation, and very little else to do. So I'm going to cut from that glut of 5 mana spells. I need more that helps my board when I cast it, and I need more that makes tokens right away. So let's cut that Divine Visitation and Doubling Season to start with. Doubling Season would be great if we were doing more with counters, but it's the most expensive token doubler in the list and adds to that 5 mana spot. Let's add in some more stuff that can ramp us, since one of the problems is that the X spells in the list seem like 2 mana spells but are actually 4+ mana spells. Overlord of the Hauntwoods makes us land tokens, which again is an overlap of synergy here, making tokens and making tokens of other things. Oh, and Awaken the Woods, another X spell. Even cast where X equals 1 ramps us by 1 but creates a token and scales better much later in the game. And now starting hands feel a bit light on card draw. Since we can't rely on our commander to draw cards, we should dedicate a few more spots in the list to filling in those nuts and bolts. Are Tireless Tracker and Tireless Provisioner too slow for the deck? They ramp us and fill card draw spots, and synergize with some of the ways that we have to make token lands. Having more copies of them, or more copies of stuff that makes land tokens, both works for us, and they themselves make tokens too. Let's see how the list feels with them in it. Okay, new hands feel better. Across 5 hands of this revision, there's nothing I really wouldn't keep. That means this feels good, feels strong, feels right. So in that case, the last thing to address is to replace these placeholder lands with what we actually need. Since I've kept space for 40 lands, I'm not tempted to cut lands for other cards. All I have to do is select which lands I want to fill in these 40 cards. Looking at our mana curve, we want all 3 of our colors early game, with white being the least necessary to have before turn 3. Moxfield's tools say that 40% of our mana symbols are green, where 25 and 26% of our symbols are white and blue respectively. So we want just about all of our lands to produce green mana, easy. That means adding in green lands that produce both colors, like Breeding Pool or Temple Garden. They should be prioritized. Let's add in Pain lands and Battle lands as well. And if we're going to consider any tap lands whatsoever for the list, we should be considering Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, because we have multiple landfall-related cards. They make ideal turn 1 plays, and since we only have 2 cards in the deck that cost 1 mana, we can make sure there are only tapped lands. Also, lastly, are there any utility lands we absolutely want? I could add in the channel lands like Iganjo or Boseiju if I really wanted to up some of our interaction counts. Abandoned Air Temple is just good and replaces a basic plains too. It really helps out our go wide game plan and fits into our game plan too of making our tokens better. Lastly, we tweak our basic land counts to fill in the rest of the list, and voila! Moxfield's tools now say 50% of our lands create green mana, while 33 and 35% of our lands create white and blue mana respectively. Solid. Let's run it through a few more test hands to see how it feels, looking to see if we're consistently generating the colors we need now. And wow, there's not a single hand I wouldn't keep here. Some hands where a Mana Dork or an Evolving Wilds really save our butts, but that's exactly why we included them. And this becomes a solid Bracket 2 deck. No game changers, and I really don't think that the deck needs them to do the kind of thing that we want to do. Also, we're having a good casual time, hopefully making it to turn 6 or 7 and popping off with some tokens. Now I'm ready to start pulling cards and sleeving them up and ordering any singles I don't have. This method of building a deck lets you appreciate the cards in the 99 for what they do rather than what they could be doing. It helps you think of synergy, helps you appreciate that card that helps your game plan rather than just does the thing. It also lets you explore more, lets you find cards you don't know about, and lets you appreciate the real breadth of options you have in building a commander deck. And that's my process for building commander decks from the 99 towards the commander, a build-in deck. If you've enjoyed the process, be sure to let me know in the comments, and next time I'll break down my process for building outwards from a commander for a much more streamlined, much more powerful potential brew. If you can't wait to see that one, be sure to let me know in the comments which commander you want me to start with. And don't leave without checking out my sponsors like Card Conduit. They are hands down the easiest way to sell your individual Magic cards without the hassle of traditional buy listing. They'll get you top dollar while handling all of the heavy lifting, from sorting to grading to optimizing your price across a huge network of vendors. And they'll give you cold hard cash for it. You can use the promo code MECHANIC right now for 10% off of all fees. And if you want to pick up the cards for this list, make sure to go check out Card Trader. Use my promo code MECHANIC right now for 5% off your order from any TCG. Card Trader's zero system means you can get cards from all over the world with only one shipping fee. Save money and time today. Lastly, you can check out all of my decks on Moxfield. Moxfield is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to build decks and search for specific cards with their powerful tools. Have you checked out their drag and drop feature yet? It's revolutionary. Be sure to check out my brews and follow my profile there right now. If you were inspired to brew today, you have to hit that subscribe button. Check out this other deck on my channel right now for more sweet tech. And as always folks, good luck and have fun.